This is from Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same.
Hey everybody, welcome to From Justin to Kane. I am Mike, and with me as always is Bob.
Hey everybody.
And this is yet another episode of From Justin to Kane, where, as you heard in the intro, we watch one bad movie, one good movie, talk about how they're the same. And this episode is a pretty fun episode. We watched the 2008 action thriller Taken with Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
And the 1999 rom-com Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere returning together at last. And we are saying that these movies are the same. Bob, did you find that they were the same?
Yes. I mean, with one condition. I watched this film literally a year ago, Runaway Bride. I watched it a year ago, sort of at the beginning of lockdown, so to speak.
During your famous rom-com movie viewing marathon that seemed to go on for months.
Yes. And this was one of the early ones because I had a little Julia Roberts kick. But interestingly, I watched Pretty Woman last. But this was probably like the fifth movie in my weird binge fest that I decided to go on. Frankly, I love this movie, but I do understand why it's a bad film objectively. Yeah. So I think it's fine that we're doing it for the podcast. But interestingly, so both these films, dare I say, crushed at the box office.
They did crush at the box office, yeah.
But Runaway Bride had pretty terrible reviews, and most people just kind of looked at it and said, this is your quintessential, unremarkable film, whereas Taken was like a fun surprise because it's a genre film, and it was pretty good.
Yeah. I remember when Runaway Bride came out, it was a big deal because, Gere and Julia Roberts were returning to the screen together.
Mm-hmm.
But then also the soundtrack was also very, very big, I guess, because they had the Dixie Chicks doing some covers, and they did that Ready to Run song, which features at the beginning of the movie in that classic 90s movie thing where there's a big movie soundtrack song, and then it's just kind of playing in the background for 30 seconds in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I remember Runaway Bride being a big deal, but only because it was, the summer, and it was just look, a dumb movie with a soundtrack you can buy.
Well, also the 90s, especially, I would like to say mid to late 90s, maybe mid 90s to early 2000s was the perfect time in which movie soundtracks would make crazy sales.
Yeah. Now that
with the advent
really
of the CD.
The advent of the CD, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Because Reservoir Dogs is famously, a huge percentage of its success was due to the sales of its soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of films are true that way.
Well,
where it's box office was fine, but we made $100 million off of CD sales.
One thing that we didn't talk about on our last episode, the Saturday Night Fever episode, we didn't talk about the soundtrack at all.
Well,
which is kind of a weird, glaring omission, I think, because as I understand it, that was one of the biggest selling albums of all time. Up
so
until
what's
Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Precisely, and I left that out for some reason, and I don't know why. But yeah, it was the number one album in history until Thriller came out, which is fascinating because it was a movie soundtrack made up of a lot of Bee Gees tunes, but also just a smorgasbord of shit. And it was the greatest selling album ever, beating Beatles albums and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then, Thriller came out in the 80s and beat it.
They made a deal. Somebody involved in the movie was like, I get to keep a cut of the profits from the soundtrack. Don't worry about it. And then they were like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah. And then it just turned out to be this gigantic thing. So somebody walked away with just so much money.
Mad Skrilla, as it were. Yeah, I don't know why I left that out. That is a pretty profound omission on my part, but You know what? Life is for living, Mike. Life is for living.
Well, you do have a particular set of skills, and that isn't remembering to include some of the most interesting, vital information. That's not the skill.
But I only state my said skills over like a late 2000 aughts, flip phone situation.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have to say, like, maybe this is my generation, but looking at the cell phones just kind of made me laugh the whole time.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it was crazy just how much he got done with the cell phones they had at the time.
It's funny seeing technology that has grown so quickly in such a short period of time, but to see it in its infancy, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, yeah. The part in the movie where he finds his daughter's flip phone, takes the SD card, puts it in that weird photo printer
vending machine thing
in the airport or wherever he is, and then he looks at it and is able to see the reflection of a guy, like very CSI kind of logic of, oh, I see a reflection. I can tell who this guy is based on this very pixelated reflection from a really crappy phone.
Yeah, yeah. And like, it's just from a modern lens, that stuff is so archaic, but that was revolutionary in 2008.
Yeah. I remember taking so many photos with my tiny little flip phone.
Same. And I thought I was an artist. I was like, this is a great photo. And it was 3 megapixels or something, Yeah.
I tracked down a lot of kidnappers just via photos from flip phones.
In fact, you still use the flip phone to track down kidnappers. You're one of those people. You love T9.
Actually, I was so good at T9, I could do it while I was like not even looking. I could just walk in T9. In many ways, it was like a better way of texting because it was almost like a code.
Well, there's it's kind of like Morse code. It's a powerful thing because you only have 9 buttons, but it's how many times you push each button. And you memorize those values, and it's actually faster than typing.
A little bit, yeah.
I feel like, I was so good at it too. And less typos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have so many typos now, whereas back then I didn't.
Yeah, it's true, actually. Now you're constantly saying, duck the police all the time. I don't know why.
I do say duck a lot in a lot of texts. And then I reply, duck me. Oh, my ducking God.
Let's talk about these movies we watched. That's some good like opening banter.
Yeah. So I researched Runaway Bride. It was released in 1999, directed by Gary Marshall, who has had a prolific career in like the really light Americana, rom-com-y, sitcom-y world. Like he's never made a really profound drama or a documentary, but he has been a major pillar in American television from the 50s onward.
Nice.
He was the creator. He was one of the creators and head writers of like The Lucy Show, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Hey Landlord, Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley, The New Odd Couple, Happy Days. He created all these shows.
Wow.
And this was all before Pretty Woman, which he directed, interestingly enough, with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, which was the first time they were in a movie together. His directorial resume is also quite impressive, but it's all the same stuff. Like, it's all just rom-com-y and very light. So he has Pretty Woman, Runaway Bride, The Princess Diaries, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, Mother's Day. He's the director of all these weird, like, rom-com holiday films.
Yeah, his trilogy of day movies.
Yeah, totally. So he's had an amazing career, really. I mean, it's about as good as it gets, I feel like. He must be probably one of the wealthiest filmmakers we've ever talked about, just by virtue of how vanilla he was as a filmmaker. Like, the difference between this guy and Lars von Trier is staggering. In terms of box office, subject matter, artistic approach. It's just interesting how different they are. But, like, this guy's like the Chuck Lorre of film and television, even though Chuck Lorre is technically the Chuck Lorre of film and television. So Gary Marshall directed this film. It was written by, I don't know how to say this, Josanne McGibbon and Sarah Darriott. again, so they've written together several times on like some pretty unremarkable projects, but they seem to be a writing duo, and this was one of their better films. Gary Marshall directed. All of his grandkids and kids are in this film.
Classic.
Which is kind of interesting. Also, there's like a scene with kids, if I remember correctly, like in the church or something, like for the wedding or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
all of the crew members' kids. They're just like, they just wrangled all the kids of all the crew members and cast members because they needed all these extras, all these like 7 to 11-year-olds.
That must have been kind of fun.
Shout out to 7-Eleven. Great place.
We love your taquitos.
and the Big Gulp.
And the Big Gulp.
Lest we forget the Big Gulp.
Hey, guys. Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the audience doesn't know this. Certain audience members do, but Mike loves Big Gulp.
No, I love Slurpees.
But the size of Big Gulp, do you love or no?
I used to. As a teen, I would actually go to 7-Eleven and get the 2-liter Big Gulp cups and fill it with Slurpee. And
have that in one sitting?
And I would drink that in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, ingesting unbelievable quantities of sugar.
I think unfathomable is the word you're looking for.
64 ounces of sugar water. It just probably, yeah, I'm surprised I'm not
But
dead.
you were running hurdles the whole time, right?
No, I was playing in 64. Playing Conqueror's Bad Fur Day and Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, shit. So, interestingly, this project came into fruition actually around the time that Pretty Woman was made. And several celebrities were attached to the project for 10 years. The only one I remember so far is Angelica Houston, which isn't super helpful because it was a lot of people.
She was going to play Julia Roberts' character?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, another interesting fact. So Julia Roberts, Richard Gere, Hector Elizondo, Kathleen Marshall, Larry Miller, and Patrick Richwood, as well as Gary Marshall, all appeared in Pretty Woman, and they all are involved in this film. But yeah, let me just, in development for 10 years, actors attached. So Gina Davis, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, Michael Douglas, Demi Moore, Sandra Bullock, Ellen DeGeneres, Ben Affleck, Tia Leone, and then Elaine May, interestingly, did some rewrites that never saw the light of day, which is interesting, as well as, I don't know who Leslie Dixon is, but they also did some writes. But yeah, this project was in basically like production purgatory, or development hell, rather, for 10 years before it was made. And another fact, so supposedly, Julia Roberts, the only sequels that she had been in, like, as of 2002 or whatever, was the Oceans franchise. That's the only series she's ever been in. And her condition was that she would be in this movie if it wasn't going to be a franchise and be, like, serialized into a series of films.
I wonder why. Why is she afraid of that, or why does she not want that?
I don't know, because she's been in some real stinkers. So, like, she obviously doesn't vet the script. She vets the concept of, like, oh, I don't want to be in a series.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know.
Well, there's only so many weddings that the Runaway Bride can run away from. So, yeah, I can't see this being a long-running series.
It's interesting that it's just interesting that she wants to, like, die on that hill, though, in a weird way.
What's she up to now? She's not really doing anything anymore, is she?
Well, she was in Homecoming and the executive producer of it. And dare I say, it's an amazing series.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. But she's only in the first season, but she executive produced and helped create it for Amazon. But yeah, she's not super busy.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you're,
but also you have all that Runaway Bride money. Like, what? Why?
Yeah,
why
just
do you
hang
need to
out.
work?
Just hang out.
She made Aaron Brockovich, and she's like, I'm good. I figured it out. Oh, she's also in that Mike Nichols film with Natalie Portman and Clive
Closer.
Owen. Closer, yeah. She's made a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, way to go,
Anywho,
Julia.
this isn't me loving Julia Roberts, although I do love Julia Roberts.
And also the sister of Eric Roberts from A Talking Cat.
It's nuts. Their careers are so different.
Oh, I know. One of them is like America's Sweetheart. The other one is just America's guy who will do anything.
Do they like celebrate like holidays together? I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder what their relationship is like.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. Like what they're like.
A talking cat? That's just stupid. That's the best you could come up with.
I'm a talking cat.
Anywho, so USA Today is based in Arlington, Virginia, not New York, but in the film, the head office is in New York, where Richard Gere is introduced.
Right.
And he's supposed to be like a big city. I don't know how big Arlington is. I'm sure it's much smaller, and that's why they did the switch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just outside of Washington.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because like Arlington Cemetery is there.
Like Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's a smaller town or like city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's that big.
Yeah. But anyways, they switched it to New York, and that's like a weird thing that they had to do for the movie.
Well, yeah, you have to get that sweet big city and then homespun small town girl like dichotomy.
You know what's
going?
Interesting? This movie might be the DNA, like in terms of evolutionary timeline. This is, in the evolution image, there's like a monkey and then a monkey that doesn't walk on all fours, and then like the monkey stands up a little straighter.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the second monkey, and Hallmark movies are the last monkey, which is just a person. You know what I mean?
But sometimes it's not the big city guy; it's the big city girl. Going to a small town and marrying a small town prince.
Yes, for sure. But I think there's some shared DNA between Hallmark and this film.
Oh, I would totally agree. Yeah.
Even though Hallmark didn't really start getting busy till the teens.
Yeah, it was only in the last 5 years that it really exploded and became a thing. And now around Christmas time, it's hard to go on streaming apps.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go on Crave TV here in Canada and like try and like look through movies that they put on around the holidays, and it's just like you just have to wade through all of the Hallmark crap that they add to it.
Yeah.
It's a real stressful life to live,
Yeah, Mike has a really hard life.
It's a hard life.
Anywho, that's it. That's all I have about this film.
Okay.
I saw it like 12 months ago, so I'm pretty fuzzy. I only remember 3 scenes.
That is fine. There's only 3 scenes in the movie, technically.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
If you consider acts scenes.
I don't, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Taken, 2008's Taken.
So Taken came out in 2008. It was also titled 96 Hours and The Hostage.
What about Tooken? And then they realized that wasn't a word. And also Taked.
I think there is a parody called Tooken.
Oh, okay.
Like somebody made an entire movie called Tooken, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? Oh, shit.
2015, there's a film called Tooken. And it is like, it's a spoof of the Taken franchise and other similar kind of movies. It stars Lee Tergesen, who, if I'm not mistaken, looks like the guy who played Beecher. No, is it Beecher from Oz?
Oh, yeah. Like Oz is in the
prison
HBO
movie,
series?
the prison show, yeah.
Yeah, with J.K. Simmons.
So he was the guy who, I believe, who forced somebody to eat poo on it with a stick.
Is he the Nazi?
Yeah, he's the Nazi guy.
So,
he's in Tooken.
Interesting. So I actually just learned about this show literally last week. And somebody was like, as soon as J.K. Simmons was on this show, he never played anyone else ever again.
Yeah.
Sorry, who did he play?
He played Beecher, was the guy's name. He was the Nazi guy. I forgot J.K. Simmons was on Oz.
Yeah, he played Vern Schillinger.
Yeah, Schillinger, that's right, yeah.
Oh, Tobias Beecher, yes. Oh, interesting. He made somebody eat poop.
He made someone eat poo with a stick. Well, he I think Beecher shoved poo down Schillinger's throat with a stick, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
I haven't seen Oz in a long, long time. It used to come on TV after, like, on Saturday night after I had watched Saturday Night Live and Mad TV and stuff, and then it just proceeded to scare me.
Yeah, what an emotional roller coaster to endure. I somebody described this show to me, and I realized I never wanted to see it.
Well, it was like HBO's first foray into drama kind of. Maybe not its first, but it was like one of the first big impacts.
It beat The Sopranos by like a month, right?
Yeah.
Apparently it's so... Oh, I remember seeing the box set at HMV.
Yeah. I mean, everybody says it's great who's seen it.
Shit. Should I watch it?
Go for it. I don't know. If you want to watch, I just don't want to see
somebody eat poo.
Wow. Outside of, work hours.
I'm sorry, what?
Anyway, I was talking about Taken. We're 3 tangents away at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, yeah, I had literally only said so far that the movie's called Taken. So It came out in 2008. It's a French film. It's a French action thriller, co-produced by a French company called EuropaCorp, which Luc Besson mostly owns.
Oh, interesting.
And it was written by Luc Besson and a guy named Robert Marc Kamen, and directed by Pierre Morel. So there's like a lot of French DNA in this movie. You think it's just an American film set in France, but it's actually a French film set in America and then also in France. But with like American actors as the main characters. It's kind of an interesting thing of saying, oh, look at these Americans. They're the good guys. The French people are like just kind of like the NPC characters, but it's made by French people. So kind of interesting. It's about Liam Neeson playing a guy named Brian Mills, getting his daughter back after she was titularly taken. She is the titular taken. She is taken, yes.
Taked.
This movie didn't really have much hype before it came out. A lot of people thought that it wasn't even going to like do well, and it didn't even really get a U.S. release originally.
Oh, interesting.
Only after it opened did it start to like make some waves, and then people were like, "Oh, Taken's a hit." And it's been such a hit that Liam Neeson has kind of had a second phase of his career where he is now this unlikely action star who's kind of pushing 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where in one of the movies, I think it's Taken 3, like he climbs a fence and it's edited so frenetically with like 16 or 17 different shots because he's so old and he can't do it. And Liam Neeson has talked a lot in interviews about how he's freaking old and he can't do this. He is, as they say, too old for this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Pierre Morel, I thought this was a pretty cool, great action film for what it was. But Pierre Morel, this is like his kind of random gem that he kind of plucked out of his butt. The rest of his movies look like they're just complete action schlock, especially From Paris with Love, which is famously bad, starring
John Travolta. Interesting.
Some interesting facts. The movie makes no bones kind of about like the fear of immigrants in France. Like immediately the movie is like, who did this? Who's the one who took these women? And then immediately the French government's like, it was the Albanians.
Mm-hmm.
Like just like the weird French fear of Albanians that's kind of ever present is front and center here. And there's like, yeah, they make no bones about it. But there's a interesting scene. I read a fun fact. In the scene where Liam Neeson asked the bad guys to translate that piece of paper and it says Mirafet or something, Mirafet, and then everybody laughs. It's because those words are very, very literal translation of good and luck, and that makes no sense. The correct way to say it is Pekfet. I don't know how to say it. I'm kind of just saying like Borat. Anyway, so... it's kind of like an inside joke if you know Albanian, just that he's like an English guy who looked it up and then just took 2 English words, made it Albanian, and then was like, translate this, just so he could hear the guy saying it.
Huh.
So everybody in the room laughs because it's just like, oh, this stupid foreigner, he doesn't know Albanian for real. Also, Albania itself embraced the negative perspective that the movie takes of Albanians and did a tourism campaign called Be Taken by Albania.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that just happened a couple years ago. And another country that did something very similar in the last year or two was Kazakhstan.
With Borat?
Yeah, with Borat. They made an ad campaign saying, Kazakhstan, very nice. That's not even a joke. That actually happened. You can find it.
Oh, jeez. Any way to make money, you know?
I mean, yeah, and it makes sense because Taken was a big movie. They talk about Albania a lot, and it does Albania dirty. Anyway, Luc Besson came up with the idea for this movie, and he was going to originally cast Jeff Bridges as Brian Mills. Somehow Liam Neeson got involved. And the production budget for the movie was $25 million, and it made $300 or something million.
Also, like 25 is so low.
That's very low. You know how much the production budget for Runaway Bride was?
How much?
$70 million.
Oh my God.
Like, where did they spend that money? I think most of it went to Julia Roberts, actually.
And Richard Gere.
And Richard Gere, but I think mostly Julia Roberts. Because that was the era also of like Hollywood paying certain people $20+ million, and that was a big deal. Like Jim Carrey, I remember famously getting that for The Cable Guy, and now it's like such a common thing that people don't even think about it.
Yeah.
But back then it was a big deal, and I think Julia Roberts was one of the few women, if not the only woman, who could command that kind of money. So I think like a third of the budget was Julia Roberts.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah, the Taken series as a whole has almost grossed $1 billion worldwide. And they made a prequel television series based on Taken that came out in 2017 and lasted for 2 seasons. And one more fun fact about Taken. Liam Neeson is famously like a gun control guy. He really thinks unrestricted rights to own guns is like an insane thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so when he was responding to a question about the Charlie Hebdo shootings in Paris, a U.S. gun manufacturer took offense to his comments and said that the weapons that they provide for the Taken film series they'll no longer be working with Liam Neeson anymore. They're just like, we're no longer going to provide firearms to films starring Liam Neeson.
Wow.
So Liam Neeson got the gun people mad, I guess.
The antithesis of Charlton Heston.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because he's like an anti-gun guy, but then the second phase of his career is entirely like, he couldn't do it without guns.
Well, yeah, you have like Taken, Walk Among the Tombstones. There's a few other action movies in there where he's in his 60s and he's just kicking ass.
The Gray, The Commuter, who knows? There's so many of them.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a new one every month. I just kind of like, oh, Liam Neeson has another action movie out, I guess. Wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Taken. So we never really specified also what was the good movie and what was the bad movie, because they both are like kind of equally middle of the road kind of.
I think
in terms
Taken is the good film.
Yeah, we know. We came into this saying Taken was the good movie, and it is like kind of has universal acclaim among audiences.
Yes, and I think for what it is, it's shockingly good.
Yeah, it is like
as a trash film, it's good.
Yeah, and like they stretched that $25 million. Like there's so much going on in this film, and it's amazing that it only cost that much.
Yeah, I mean it's revolutionary, really.
Mm-hmm. Must be because of French tax credits or something. Who knows? They must have done something.
And I mean, they work quick. Like you can tell by the coverage and how it's made that they just like really worked quickly, you know? And they were just like, yeah, it's a 90-minute movie. Like we can't keep working on one scene for weeks and weeks and weeks. We just have to keep going. So all the action is not as crazy as it could be, you know?
Yeah, the editing
nuts.
is frenetic.
Yes. As the Fence testimony, keeps telling us.
Yeah, so Taken is a good movie. Runaway Bride is a bad movie. Like when you watch them, Taken is an enjoyable film. Runaway Bride is like just opportunistic crap, I guess.
Well, even during my rom-com binge, I thought to myself, this movie just literally doesn't say anything. Like, I don't really understand why they made this movie. Most films I get. I'm like, I know why they made it. But this one is just irrelevant on so many levels. Like, oh, this Runaway Bride, like, she has commitment issues. And she's been at the altar, like, what, 4 times or something?
More than that,
But she's mechanically inclined. Like, it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it also seemed kind of muddy on its politics about marriage itself. Like, it kind of seemed like marriage is the end-all, be-all of characters in rom-coms. Like, once you get married, that means love is true love, blah, blah, blah. Whereas...
Well, especially since they were both successful and happy on their own.
Yeah.
which is weird. And then they just got married anyways. And it felt very forced because like Richard Gere's character, I didn't really buy as like somebody who would get married. And like Julia Roberts, her character famously never got married.
I couldn't see them falling in love just in terms of the two characters being like, oh, these guys make sense as people who would be in love. But then by the end of the movie, and supposedly they'd built up all that chemistry, it's like, no, this doesn't make any sense to me.
But did they base it off of just Pretty Woman?
I think so. I think a lot of audience expectation was featured in this.
But that's so stupid.
Was it based on a true story?
No.
Okay. I thought it was.
No, it wasn't. No, I don't I couldn't find that anywhere. Maybe it was, but I couldn't find it.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So let's find some similarities between these movies and
frick yeah,
walk away saying these were the same movie.
I'll start. Maybe so both characters, the male lead has culture shock.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
So Liam Neeson's in France. He like obviously can't speak. Wait, sorry. Which country are the weird human traffickers from?
They're from Albania.
Albania. So like he can't speak Albanian. He can't really speak French. Culture shock. And then Richard Gere's like a big city guy, and then he goes to this small town, and he's like, "Whoa, like this is different."
Mm-hmm.
Until they discover that he can play the lap steel guitar or whatever the fuck he plays in the movie.
Oh right. Yeah.
There's a scene where he plays guitar, right?
I think so.
So famously, that scene was he improvised that and he actually played.
Wow.
Yeah. When like Julia Roberts is driving her truck and she's like, "Oh shit, he can play the lap steel?" That was Richard Gere for real.
He's a regular Steven Seagal guitar player. Actor.
Exactly.
Yeah,
culture
good.
shock.
So in both movies, U2 kicks things off.
What?
At the beginning of Runaway Bride, the opening credits, the song that they play is U2. And then in Taken, the reason that his daughter is going on the trip is to follow U2 on tour, which seems odd to me because it's kind of like their culture impacted lessened.
I totally understand where you're coming from, okay? I totally understand. But when I was in junior high, I had a crush on a girl, and she told me her favorite band was U2, and this is probably 2008.
Weird.
And then I proceeded to go to HMV and buy 7 U2 CDs and listen to them all the way through Christmas break. So, you know what? Bono still got game.
Was she right, though? Were they good?
No, it was terrible. I'm not a huge U2 fan, to be honest with you. I am not a fan. So I totally understand why it's perplexing that they chose U2 and not like a more hip band. I feel like Green Day would have made more sense or something. So it's not that far-fetched, but it feels far-fetched.
Yeah, it feels
as an
far-fetched.
adult man in 2021.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's like
you're
U2
right.
in 2008? Like, are you shitting me?
They must have had some sort of comeback then, I guess.
Well, I remember they had this legendary music video come out in probably 2008, and it was like a concert, like they went on tour, and they had this really famous stage that they built that was 2 arches that crossed each other, and they were lit like with LEDs, and they played to like, I don't know, probably 50,000 people.
You're right. I actually
and it was a
on
circular
that.
stage. Like they were really, really famous. They had this crazy comeback.
I worked on that tour actually.
Did you?
Yeah,
you did an IATSE call.
I did an IATSE call. Yeah, I wasn't like touring with the band, but I just did an IATSE call here in town, and I got to while we were waiting for the show to end, they let us stand right at the front. Because we were going to like start tearing down all of the metal barricades until like 7 a.m. or however long it took.
Yeah.
So I got to watch this concert. Like I had better seats than the people who had front row seats. But funny story though, like when we were setting up for the concert, I went up to the booth where the big follow spots were. I don't know why I was up there, but the person who was moving the follow spots, they had a little sheet of paper that indicated which person on the band was who. And on the sheet, I saw it said Bono, The Edge, drummer and bass player. And it was like, oh, poor Larry Mullen and the other guy. I can't even remember his name.
So classic, though. It's like lead singer, I know their full name, I know where they were born. Everyone else in the band, literally, it's just their job title.
Well, no, but Bono and The Edge both chose stupid names, so they get to be indicated on a piece of paper, whereas Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen Jr., I think is their names.
Yeah.
They're just bass player and drummer, so poor guys.
That's so true, though. Like, there's so many famous drummers, but only drummers know their names.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Ringo.
even the crazy famous drummers, it's like, they're not a household name.
No.
It's like, who's Terry Bozzio, you know?
Who is Terry Bozzio? Inquiring minds want to know.
He was a drummer for Frank Zappa.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then,
Cool.
like, John Bonham isn't a household name. Drummer for Led Zeppelin. You know, innovators in rock. And, like, Buddy Rich, not a household name. Gene Krupa, not a household name.
Should
be.
I saw Dweezil Zappa like a year or two ago.
I saw Dweezil Zappa again at a similar age as this U2 epiphany I had
really?
when I was a child. And
That's
I had
cool.
This crazy crush. Yeah. I saw Dweezil Zappa at the Windspear, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. And I didn't even know. My dad dragged me to it because I was in guitar lessons, and he's like, "You want to see the real deal?" And I was like, "Yeah." I had no idea what I was in for, and it was astonishing.
Yeah, it was cool.
And I didn't even know who Frank Zappa was at the time. I was just like, who the fuck's Dweezil Zappa? They're like, Frank Zappa's son. And I was like, who the fuck is Frank Zappa? And then later on, I researched, listened to some albums, and I was like, wow, this is a revolution. You know, this is amazing.
Yeah, Dweezil's show, what I saw 2 years ago, Dweezil just kind of stands there and looks super bored as he plays like unbelievable like guitar theatrics.
Yeah.
And then the rest of his band are like somehow more talented than he is. And it's just kind of wild to see.
You know, it's nuts. Like if you were to go see Ringo Starr now, you'd be like, wow, like the people he hired are so fucking good at their instruments. Ringo Starr sucks. And that's what it is. And it's the same with anybody who like solo performs but has a massive band because of a large repertoire of stuff that they're trying to play.
Yeah.
They hire studio musicians or people out of Berkeley or whatever, but they're so astonishingly good at their instruments.
Yeah.
That they're infinitely better than the front person. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of a weird reality of touring, especially when there's a legacy involved.
Yeah, man.
Not dissimilar to like, you know, Liam Neeson was in Taken, and like a lot of the supporting cast were really good. Maybe better than Liam Neeson.
And also all of these musicians have a very particular set of skills. So that's a bit of a segue back. So we're back.
Actually,
to
I have a similarity that I'd love to just talk about right now because I feel like you're gonna take it.
I probably will.
Liam Neeson has a very particular set of skills,
famously,
as does Julia Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
She's like mechanically inclined. She's like a metal engineer.
She builds lamps out of like metal crap,
and she fixes the barber's chair, the hydraulic lift.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like mechanically inclined. She understands engineering and structure as well as metalworking. I would, without a doubt or any inhibition, describe that as a special set of skills.
I would say so, yeah. Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. It is a special set of skills because, you know, yes, not everybody can do it. But you probably wouldn't say that if Julia Roberts was a male character. Because she's a woman and she has that set of skills, it is kind of particular. I think there's like a certain kind of gendered aspect to the film where she is, she's kind of weird and quirky as a result of having these particular set of skills. So,
well, back to the bizarre politics. So, Runaway Bride is perplexing. Mm-hmm. Maybe as is, you know what? Both of these films, I'm just going to say it. I just thought of this one. Both films, when you really look at it, have some pretty troubling politics.
Oh, 100%.
So obviously Taken has sort of a more ethnic and national troubling political sort of backdrop that it's using to tell its story.
Well, also Liam Neeson's character is like this ex-CIA person, and all of the things he does to all of these people is like he murders people in cold blood without thinking.
And the torture is like really
people.
Unique too, like with the electrocution.
And it's just so nonchalant for him.
Yeah, and the CIA reportedly has had some pretty gnarly instances of torture in the past.
Yeah. And well, I mean, and you could look at the movie as like a French perspective, kind of critiquing or making some sort of commentary on American, like, torture stuff, like CIA stuff. So, but the audience for the movie kind of shrugs that off and is like, sweet, what a badass.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's probably true of Runaway Bride too. Like, people looked at it and they're like, isn't it so funny to see a lady who's really good with a ball-peen hammer?
Yeah.
But again, it's like there's something troubling in the implications associated with, like, she's like a spinster in the making because she's left the altar so many times. And as a result, she's hyper masculine because she can handle metalworking.
Yeah.
And she's an engineer, in quotes. And that's looked down upon as like a weird thing that makes her kind of stick out from the community she lives in.
Well, she's kind of a masculine character, so her fear of commitment is inherently masculine. And so therefore she is broken because she has this masculinity about her. So
yeah, and that's like, that is problematic. That is like a troubling sort of thesis that feels like an underlying cause of the film. And then, like, Richard Gere, like, is this big city, like, open-minded guy, but also hypercritical, but is a writer. I don't know. There's just like nothing critical about Richard Gere, and it's super critical of Julia Roberts. And that kind of feels like the same problem that Pretty Woman has.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like, Pretty Woman is just like is just riddled with really bizarre problems that, if you really think about, similar to like Forrest Gump, you're like, on the surface, it's like, I love this movie. And then you kind of look at it for what it is and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like,
no,
this is
weird.
kind of a fucked up movie, you know? And I think Runaway Bride is kind of fucked up.
Well, yeah. I wrote down that both movies kind of are gendered cliche porn, kind of.
Yeah.
Not literal porn, but just the, like, taken as dad porn, kind of, where you just like, this guy's a bad dad who has to show his daughter how good he is. And he shows her by murdering people.
Saved by daddy.
And he saves, daddy saves his daughter, shows her how good he is. And then, spoiler alert, this is what happens at the end of the movie. So if you really don't want the ending of Taken spoiled, stop listening.
Yeah, freak off.
He does show her, he introduces her to a pop star so she can be the singer she wants to be. So he saves his daughter and then is like, look how good of a dad I am.
There's a whole, like, bad daddy plot to the pop singer too, because it's like, wow, this 70-year-old man saved my life from a guy trying to knife me. Like, I'm like weirdly horny for this old man now. And it's like,
exactly.
That's a weird thing to depict.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you know what? I was a total dick before, but now I'm just going to, like, I'll talk to your daughter. I'll give her singing lessons. I'll give her my manager, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And it's kind of nutty in Taken that there's, like, the divorce, obviously. The mother has, like, there's, like, a stepfather who's, like, a millionaire, like, affluent for some reason, and a pretty good-looking, like, silver fox situation. And then Liam Neeson's like, the only way I'll get my daughter to like me is if she gets forced into a human trafficking situation and I save her.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's a particular set of
nuts.
skills.
Well, fuck. You know, it's just there's, like, bizarre implications about just, like, parenting in general and, like, what's actually required for somebody to appreciate you. And it's like, really? Like, that's what it would take?
Yeah.
Like, let's ignore the fact that maybe, like, me as a character, I murdered hundreds of innocent people in torture to try to get intel on whatever. And now I'm just going to save my daughter because I love her. And the only reason she loves me is because I stopped her from being forced into a human trafficking transaction to a man on a yacht. That's crazy.
Yeah. And also the French government is somehow involved in all of it too. And that's kind of just like, and complicit. And that's kind of just pushed to the side, which is kind of funny. Both films feature kind of sad bachelors using investigative skills to track someone down in, like, a foreign place. So, I mean, I think that goes without saying how the two movies work. Liam Neeson tracks down his daughter in France. Richard Gere tracks down Julia Roberts in a small town, which is foreign to him, the big city guy who doesn't understand their weird ways.
Totally. I'll second that by just saying like, and as a result, they're both trying to solve a mystery.
Yes. And they both have trouble with accents.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Because Liam Neeson, you can always hear him fighting in his Irish accent. And he does a pretty good job for the most part, but then sometimes a little bit of Irish comes out. Similarly, Richard Gere struggles to do a New York accent. Sometimes he kind of comes off as a weird cartoon character half the time.
So both these characters, they also ruffle feathers.
Yes, they definitely ruffle feathers, to put it lightly.
Well, I mean, I would say Richard Gere literally just ruffles feathers, but Liam Neeson does more than ruffle feathers.
Oh, he definitely does, yeah.
He has, how do you say, fish to fry?
He does.
Poisson de fry. So yeah, they both are inherently controversial in their new context.
Great, yeah. In both movies, there's like home video that recalls the past.
Oh, I forgot about him looking at old video.
Yeah, he watches an old video, and then the wedding runner. What's her name? What's this movie called?
Runaway Bride, Mike. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Get your priorities straight.
Yeah, and so
I love this film also.
In the Runaway Bride.
I love it.
You love Runaway Bride?
I just love Richard Gere and Julia Roberts on screen together. So yeah, shoot me, Mike.
In Runaway Bride, Richard Gere watches like a home video compilation of all of the weddings she ran away from, which, I don't know if you remember, were all edited in this hilariously cinematic way. It's like there was like a 10 camera shoot for all of these weddings. At
all
one point,
on
the
DV
camera
tape.
was on the wedding dress as the child was being dragged away as she tried to run away.
Yeah.
And it's like you get this perfectly framed shot of this kid just being dragged away.
Did, at one point before Richard Gere entered the small town, did he talk to Julia Roberts on the phone?
No, he just tracked her down.
So he did he talk to anyone on the phone?
Somebody. Oh, wait. She threatened to sue him, didn't she? There was some sort of legal action being taken.
Yeah. Was that over the phone?
No, I think it was just over email, maybe.
Ah, fuck. Okay, well, that literally deletes 50% of my list, so
I wouldn't worry about it.
Whatever. Frick. I said conversation on phone, ? Both movies.
That's
Turns
a
out
bad
that isn't
comparison. You could say any movie is the same movie if it's like two characters talk on a phone.
Yeah, but I mean like but explicit about the conflict over the phone, and it turns out only 50% of the movies chosen showed explicit conflict over the phone.
Right.
Well, then I have another one. So both are heavily genre films.
Yes.
So they're like as genre as it gets. Like they lean more into their genre than they do into plot.
I would agree with that, yeah.
So Taken's like an action thriller, revenge thriller, daddy porn thriller, and Runaway Bride is like as rom-com-y as it gets.
Oh, yeah.
But also like a journalistic rom-com. And like, again, it really, there's echoes of Hallmark in it. Like, it really screams Hallmark.
It does, yeah. Why do they call it rom-com when there's nothing funny about it? You know? Like, the situation is preposterous, but I don't think there was a single joke in the movie. I don't remember laughing once.
So
I don't remember
it's
even
actually not
feeling like there was a
rom-com,
joke.
it's rom-com.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Oh,
I was watching the wrong movie.
So somber all of a sudden. Oh my God. No, you're right. It's not a funny film.
No, and then there's so many rom-coms that aren't funny. And sometimes they try really hard by just having someone get canned in like the crotch or
again, rom-com.
Yeah, oh yeah, right.
Okay. They would call it a rom-peener if it rhymed, but it doesn't. They just have to say rom-com. Yeah.
And also both movies have bad dads in it too. Like Liam Neeson obviously is a bad dad, but he becomes a good dad because he murders so many people.
Could I even say he's a bad dad, but like in a good way?
Well, he's a bad dad, but he's also like a bad dad. You know?
I think he goes from bad dad to bad daddy.
Yeah, bad. Oh yeah, he's bad dad to bad
Yeah.
daddy. And then Runaway Bride. Her dad just kind of makes fun of her the entire time. He's constantly roasting her.
Both films, the locations that were insinuated / used noticed great economic benefit as a result of the film being released.
Okay.
So you have Albania making some money off the movie.
Right.
For better or for worse. And Berlin, Maryland, which is the town that was used in the Runaway Bride. So when the film was made, they noticed $1 million increase in their like town revenue. And then as a result, every year they have like tourists and stuff visit, and they have several props as well as the convertible that the film had. I don't know who drives it. Richard Gere, I assume.
Right.
But the convertible that they had is like on display for tourists.
Right.
So the film, quote unquote, according to the mayor, put the town on the map.
So it wasn't on a map before?
No, it was, but nobody cared about it. Dare I say Albania? Same thing.
Yeah.
Take and put Albania on the map.
It kind of did, yeah. Although Albanians are used as sources of conflict in a lot of French movies or movies where there's French people in them. It's
Right.
like
I'm sure there's a
easy-
really intensely racist through line through a lot of French cinema when it comes to like international espionage and stuff.
Yeah, it's
But-
like they're
Yeah.
they're Russians, like when America has Russians as their like
Yes.
always bad guy, easy bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
France seems to have always be like the
Albanians.
Albanians are doing it again. Yeah.
Jeez.
Both films have a car chase on foot near the end. So someone is chasing after a car or a vehicle. So in Taken, he's like running after this car on the French, whatever it's called, highway.
Le Highway.
Yeah. And then he eventually catches it, takes it, and then drives it to that boat where everything's kind of going down. And similarly, in Runaway Bride, she is about to get married to Richard Gere and then runs away, gets in a FedEx car for some reason, and then he chases after her for like a good stretch of the road.
That FedEx chase is really famous
Is it? Why?
because it's so bizarre.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
It's super famous as like, yeah, I chased a FedEx truck. And like it's so unromantic, and the fact that was like the image for, how cars have like cans on them and they're driving away and it says just married, and the fact that it was a FedEx truck,
Yeah.
that was like a really fun like inversion on the classic image of driving away from a wedding or whatever. But yeah, that's like super famous.
Yeah, that is weird. Both films feature characters who have trouble breaking old habits.
Mm-hmm.
So Julia Roberts, she just can't break the habit of running away at the altar. And then Liam Neeson, his old CIA habits are always there. So he just gets into a situation and he knows exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
His particular set of skills come to the surface.
You know what? I have one more.
Go for it.
So this one's controversial, but large age gap between the Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, I can only assume their age gap was pretty steep.
I don't know. Is
it
Richard
not?
Gere a silver fox?
I don't know. Let me look up his age. So
He's
Julia
70
Roberts,
now.
He's 70, and oh fuck, I clicked on the wrong thing.
He's
Julia
53,
Roberts,
so there's 20 years of difference.
yeah, so that's a steep age difference.
Yeah.
That's not dissimilar to Liam Neeson's daughter and that guy who is like I don't know what he is, but he owns that yacht and he buys her.
Mm-hmm.
Huge age gap, like inappropriate age gap that you just kind of like have in the film.
I mean, sure. But also they're not supposed to be dating because it's human trafficking.
That's true, but I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is an older man's just trying to get with a younger lady.
Sure, but you could also say Liam Neeson, who is like almost 70 now.
Yes.
He's supposed to be married to Famke Janssen, who's like
Who's that?
she's the woman who plays his wife in the movie. She's like on a
His
top
ex-wife.
from GoldenEye. Yeah, the ex-wife.
Okay.
There's like an age.
Ex-wife is different.
There's an age gap of like more than 12 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
So it is like another classic case of, even though they're like, she's in her 50s.
I guess what it comes down to, Mike, is older man, younger woman.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's classic.
Present in both films.
Yeah, I didn't know that Richard Gere was 20 years older than her. I just thought he was like a silver fox.
I didn't know that either, but he's gray for a reason.
Mm-hmm. It's friggin' old.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, good. I guess that's good. In both movies, the character's trauma is kind of like forgotten about or just treated like it ain't no thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of Taken, his daughter just comes back from being involved in a human trafficking ring, and then it's just like back to normal, seems like, and is happy again. Starts singing. She's like, I'm going to be a pop star now. I'm going to get into something really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
In Runaway Bride, there seems to be some sort of mental health crisis that the main character is going through, that Julia Roberts' character is going through, and they kind of hint at it every once in a while that she has some sort of problem, and it kind of stems from her dad's like drinking. There's like some sort of family problem that is this whole thing is rooted in, but they don't really explore it enough, and then it's just kind of forgotten about at the end.
Yeah.
And then like at the very, very, very end, when after she runs away from Richard Gere at the altar, then she's like, I got to go find myself. And then she finds herself by building some lamps, I guess, and then comes back and it's like, okay, let's get married. And so like the whole problem with her character is never fully or even really explored at all. It's just like, this is a thing that she does. And then the movie's over.
Or even talked about it in a way that...
They don't really ever talk about it. No, it's just like, ain't that weird that she does this? And then she is like, I have to find myself. She goes and builds some lamps by herself, puts it in a store, makes some money, comes back. Now she's ready to marry the big New York writer guy. It's pretty dumb.
It is. They're both... Here's the thing. Maybe the last similarity we can talk about is how dumb they are.
Mm-hmm.
Both films are stupid.
Oh, just
dumb. That's undeniable.
They're both a couple of dum-dums, these movies.
And they're quote unquote basic.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Right? Like they're like Taken is a very basic movie, you know.
It's for basic boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basic daddies. And
yeah, it's for basic daddies, yeah.
Runaway Bride is super basic too.
Yeah.
And that's maybe why they're both lovable as films.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they're equally lovable, equally popular in some ways.
And they both crushed at the box office for a reason, you know?
Yeah. They both came at the end of a decade.
Yeah.
And they kind of encapsulated like kind of the vibe of that decade, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Runaway Bride was a good kind of encapsulation of like, this is kind of what the 90s were. And then all of like the weird politics and all of the just whatever cultural things we expect were part of the movie. Similarly, Taken also is like a very like end of the Bush era kind of movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, look at the CIA guy, all of these crazy things he does is so normalized.
Yeah.
And daddy like. And
daddy love.
Yeah, daddy love. I'm not talking about me being daddy as in daddy likey. I'm talking about like the royal daddy, you know? Like all daddy loved this movie.
AKA just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This daddy loves Taken.
Oh, daddy
Let me
love.
tell you.
Do you have like a particular set of skills, would you say?
I mean, don't we all have a particular set of skills? Not necessarily as useful as hunting down criminals, but I do have a unique set of skills, yes.
What are those skills? Doesn't have to be work related. I'm just talking about like, what are like the weird skills you got?
I think, I think I'm like good at putting in the least amount of work possible while still impressing people.
Okay.
That's my unique skill.
I think I have that same skill. I feel like I do, because it feels like I'm just putting in the least amount of work. I'll send the email at the last minute.
And people
get a very
reward you at the
positive
end, and you're like,
response,
what?
Yeah.
It's, maybe you and I, that's why we like each other, is we have this really similar skill set. But that's definitely one of them. There's many work-related ones, but that's just boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as unique sets of skills, like I'm good at learning the bare minimum of something to achieve it pretty effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be like carpentry or something else. It's just like, yeah, like I'll learn it, I'll get it done, and you'll be like, wow, you built this? And it's like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to do it again because I can't. You know what I mean? But this one time, like I executed perfectly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my special set of skills.
Yeah.
So if I had a daughter that I had to rescue, I would learn how to fight back and shoot and whatever, but it would be like just the absolute minimum required. And I would probably maybe succeed or die. I don't know, but that's just my approach. I don't know. That's my approach.
Yeah. One of your skills right now is looking like a young Richard Dreyfuss.
I thought you were going to say Jeffrey Dahmer.
No, is this what young Jeffrey Dahmer looked like?
Well, he had big glasses when he was a young guy. Yeah, but I guess Richard Dreyfuss, I do kind of look like him, don't I?
You kind of look like a young Richard Dreyfuss right now, yeah, because you got glasses on.
But also, young Richard Dreyfuss slayed.
He did, yeah.
He was a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take it.
I would say like one of my particular set of skills was being able to consume mass quantities of sugar in one sitting and not like die or go into diabetic shock or anything like that.
Or have to go to the ER.
Or have to go to the ER, yeah. Just
like doctors like probably don't know you exist, and it's kind of an anomaly because they're like, man, like this guy on paper, should have died years ago.
His liver should have exploded, but no, he's still alive.
Yeah. But here you are recording a podcast for tens of peoples.
Yeah, sneaking in a gigantic 2-liter Slurpee to the movie theater to watch Austin Power, Gold Member, and yeah, and then like going home shortly after it's nighttime, being able to go to sleep after ingesting that much caffeine and sugar in one fell swoop.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a really like with a stranger over the phone, like a really intense conversation completely on your terms?
What does that mean?
Like have you ever like been on the phone with somebody and you're like, you think you know what's going on, but you don't?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to teach you that your knowledge of this thing is wrong, or I have a special set of skills and I'm going to kill you, or you don't know how to jump a car, I know how to jump a car, or whatever. It could be as mundane as possible. Have you ever had like a conversation on the phone where you're like, I'm 100% right and you're 100% wrong?
I mean, I did kind of talk to somebody more rudely than I normally would.
Okay. Yeah.
From about my cell phone plan.
Oh, interesting. Okay. About your flip phone plan?
My data plan.
Mm-hmm.
And because they had just dinged me for something. I normally had an unlimited one, but they accidentally changed it. So basically, I just explained to them, just like, we both know that like a megabyte does not cost this much money. It is valueless because I can be paying this, amount of money every month, and I'll have unlimited. And then otherwise, I'm just using up 10 megabytes, and then I'm paying like 5 cents a megabyte or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, very long, kind of boring, but I did have a conversation where I managed to just get them to just like not charge me for it, because I explained to them just like, look, we both know this data has no value to you, but you're still charging me for it. So if you admit it, then I don't owe you anything. And they were like, yeah, okay. I think the person was like, had no stake in this. And so it was just like, this guy will stop kind of like trying to outsmart me because I don't care about my job. And I'm just, working for multiple phone companies in some other country even right now. Yeah. I have no stake in this at all. So
that's fascinating. So I was once in Canmore and I talked to a girlfriend who was in Winnipeg, and I got dinged with like $130 of extra fees.
Yeah.
Because of like nationwide long distance or whatever.
Yeah.
And I made the phone call. They explained it to me and how I fucked up. And I was just like totally like, okay, that's fair. whatever, I'll pay it. And they're like, wow, you're so nice. You know what? We'll just give you a month free. And I think this was in a weird, I was with Belle and they were desperate to keep people. And
Yeah.
and I ended up leaving them anyways, but they gave me a month free. But I was just like, I'll pay this extra $100. I mean, it's total bullshit, but whatever. And they're like, wow, thanks for not screaming at me on the phone. Here's a free month.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. Maybe you and I are so different when it comes to standing up for ourselves.
Well, no, normally I would do that too, but I think at a certain point I just felt very self-righteous. So I was like, I think I can.
But I like applaud people who can just be like, you know what, this is bullshit, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to explain it thoroughly so that there is absolutely no misunderstanding between you and I.
Yeah,
I think that's so admirable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that. Maybe I do have that trait, and it's just, you know, deep inside, but I'm still waiting for it to awaken.
Well, but also just us talking about that, this cell phone thing is our version of Taken. Like, that's how boring our lives are. It's like, you're taking money from me
in a way,
long distance minutes.
In a way, Mike, you do have a special set of skills in that you can just like over explain something to the extent that somebody's like, okay, I'm bored with this.
Thank you.
I understand what you're saying. I'm also kind of confused. And you know what? I'll just give it to you for free because
wow. Fuck
you.
I feel like I was just roasted.
You were a little bit.
Oh, wow. Not unlike the character Julia Roberts plays in Runaway Bride. She's roasted.
She was also roasted. Yeah. But then it's all with love, right? Because they went down the aisle, and you and I have gone down the proverbial friendship aisle several times.
What does that mean?
We've been married, friendship wise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like proverbially, we're married.
I mean, doing a podcast is like marriage in a way.
There's a commitment. There's like a timeline obligation. There's a loyalty. I mean, there's so many things.
There's an audience.
There's tens of peoples who want to see us not get divorced. So, you know.
That's right. There's also like there's like a performance aspect to it, you know? Because it is
similar to marriage.
We're just having a conversation, but it's also a performance in a way. Similarly, yeah, marriage is like two people kind of performing for their loved ones.
Are you and I getting to that level that like Dax and Monica on Armchair Expert are getting, where we just start arguing about shit and we're just like, let's just record this because we're important enough that people will listen to this and take it as something more relevant than just banal bullshit conversation?
I mean, I hope not, because I think that is terrible.
I also, I hate that. I think it's atrocious, and it doesn't help anyone. Even though people will state the opposite, I think it's just a waste of time.
Yeah, because Dax is like, I was in Without a Paddle, therefore I'm an expert on everything. Yeah. And then Monica is like, who the hell is she? The end. That's my whole take on that podcast.
Obviously, you've only listened to about 100 episodes, but there's more to it than that, mister.
Oh, I know, okay? I know. Also, this was another installment of PODBEEF.
PODBEEF, yeah. Well, here's the other... Okay, if we're going to get into PODBEEF, I just want to talk real quick. It's so funny, like, Smartless with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and...
Sean Hayes?
Sean Hayes. Yeah. Sean Hayes. So the three of them, like, they literally... Their first episode, because the three of them are so famous, they just had like sponsors, and then they interview people, and they don't even ask their guests questions. They just talk about themselves, and they talk about being famous, and they riff, and it's just it's really annoying, and it's just a weird thing, and people love it. They just eat it up, and they're just like, wow, these celebrities are so real.
Yeah.
And that's the same problem with stuff like Armchair Expert or other shows where it's like, I'm a celebrity and I'm going to interview this person and it's going to be so real. But then it just turns into this like self-masturbatory show that people eat up because they're like, oh, I just love this celebrity so much.
Yes, too many celebs have podcasts, I say.
Yeah, I agree.
Stay in your lane.
Let the normies, the non-famous people have their podcasts.
Yeah, let us normies have our like homemade radio broadcasts to no one. Okay.
let us normies have this thing nobody asked us to do in the first place, and nobody still asks us to do in the first place, and just let us have it, okay?
Just let us have it, celebs. Jeez, stay off our turf.
Jason Bateman, go back to Ozark. You fucking guy.
Good, you roasted him good. So that was another installment.
I feel
of Pod
pretty
Beef.
good about myself. Anyways, that's my pod beef. Celebrities interviewing celebrities just feels very self-masturbatory and inside club, and people treat it as if it's gospel.
Well, but also celebrities are generally buy into the idea that they are great because they are told that they are great. And so just like that vying for attention that they that was the initial thing that got them into it is now blown up tenfold or a millionfold. So now they just kind of accept that whatever they say, people give a crap about. And unfortunately, a lot of people give a crap about.
Well, people do. I mean, that's undeniable. The success is undeniable.
Yeah.
So whether we like it or not, it's a fact.
Yeah, because you see it like having kind of a darker edge to it too when somebody like, Joss Whedon is being accused of a lot of like sexual impropriety, to put it lightly. People just come to his defense because I like Buffy.
Totally, and it's like, I love this show so much, I'll overlook them as a person.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Woody Allen, Roman Polanski, Joss Whedon, whomever.
Yeah.
The list can be endless, but people choose to look the other way because they're like, man, that movie is so funny. Or that movie is so good.
I haven't seen that Woody Allen documentary yet, but I'm also like fine not watching Bananas again, Like I'm fine just being like, you know what? I'm going to just keep Bananas on the shelf forever or even just get rid of it. Like, and I don't, I'm being metaphorical. I don't even have Bananas on DVD, but
I also think that's
like,
maybe one of his weaker films.
It's not worth it. Oh, I know. I was just trying to
Annie Hall is the one where everyone's like, I won't give up Annie Hall. Like, that's my movie.
Yeah, Bananas actually sucks real hard.
Yeah, but Annie Hall's a great film, but you have to give it up. Just like Rosemary's Baby.
It wasn't even that good. It's boring.
I disagree. As a horror film, it's like a masterpiece, but you don't want to overlook.
Did you say horror film or borer film? Because it is a masterpiece as a borer film because it's boring.
You know what? I'll let the audience decide.
What does that mean?
You heard me.
Is that a threat? I can't tell.
Listen, I have a special set of skills, okay? And it's called wordplay.
Nice.
Well, I just did a hand phone to my face for the audience at home.
Well, that was our episode. Pretty good. Another good epi, as it were.
Yeah, not bad.
Not a bad epi, as it were.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening, people.
I'm sorry we're not Dax Shepard.
I'm also sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I wish we were, but we're not, so deal with it.
I'm sorry that I'm not Kristen Bell, actually. I feel like I'm like closer to Dax Shepard already than most.
Well, and Kristen Bell is the great one.
She is the great one, yeah. She's the Wayne Gretzky of the relationship.
She's an extraordinary artist, successful, just seems like a kind person.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Dax is a bit of a doink.
She's got comedic chops. I haven't seen Without a Paddle, so I can't really say anything about Dax.
Have you not seen Without a Paddle? Oh, it's such a turd. Should we do it next week?
We could if you want, yeah.
It's on Amazon. It's awful.
Okay, well, let's do it.
Oh my God, it's so bad. But people love it. People who were sort of old enough in the early 2000s to watch it, love it. Okay, this episode has truly become irreverent trash. We should stop.
Yeah, so well, I was trying to make it I was trying to do a sign off, but then we just got derailed.
It's my fault, not yours.
It doesn't matter.
You're doing a great job conducting this orchestra of two, and I'm just going for it. I don't know why.
It's fine. So yeah, that was a good epi. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
I mean, we don't do a whole lot of housekeeping at the end. Our social medias, from Justin to Kane with the number 2.
Yeah.
And then, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I guess. And then...
And Tumblr.
And we do have a Tumblr, which is basically it just reposts our Instagram content automatically, so we don't even go there. So
do we have a Tumblr?
We do actually have a Tumblr.
Oh,
yeah.
that was a bit. That was a joke.
No, I just put it out there for extra SEO. Not sure if it makes a difference, but just having our posts be out there with the words from Justin to Kane more on Tumblr, I feel like probably helps.
Okay, good. That was a bit, and it backfired on me.
That's fine. But I think, as I understand it, one of the most important things people can do, aside from following us and talking to us, I guess, on social media, is go on iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Even if you hate it, give us a 5-star review. Just lie through your teeth. Lie through your teeth via review online.
Mm-hmm. You hear that, Mom? God.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.